Welcome to today's gentle class that will be focusing a little bit more on balance and kind of practicing different ways that we can find some or practice some balance in our bodies. Today's practice, we will need a blanket, and if you could roll your blanket up so that it's a couple of inches wide, and you want the length to support you from the top of your head to your tailbone. So you might want to just pause your video for a second and set your blanket roll up so that it's rolling or lying down the length of your mat. And then once you have that set up, you can lie down on that blanket roll. So kind of placing your spine along the roll. So making sure that your head isn't falling off the edge of it or the end of it. Making sure that you have your lower back, your tailbone resting on the blanket roll. And you can keep your knees bent with your feet on the ground, feet a little bit apart. And then just place your arms on the ground with the palms facing up. Make any little adjustments you need to so that you feel relatively settled. And then you might just let your eyes close or soften your gaze and take a nice deep inhalation and a releasing exhalation. Maybe doing that one more time in your own time. Inhaling deeply and exhaling completely. Just allowing your body to settle onto that roll. Just kind of noticing how that feels. Might feel a little bit strange. You might feel a little bit wobbly. That's perfectly normal. Just begin to tune into the feeling of the breath moving in the body. Notice how the breath feels in the front of the body, the sides of the body, and the back of the body. Get a sense or bring an awareness to the fact that lying on this blanket roll creates a really gentle opening through the front of your body. If you're anything like me these past few weeks, you may be spending a little more time than normal on your phone or your computer in that rounded forward position, and this is a super gentle way just to counter that, finding a little more opening and space through the front of the shoulders, the front of the body. And then before you move, just get a sense of your shoulder blades and notice where the shoulder blades sort of land here. So with the arms on the floor, palms facing up, you might notice that your shoulder blades are sort of almost wrapped around this blanket roll. We're going to work with that a little bit as you pick your arms up and reach your arms for the ceiling. Have your elbows straight, have your palms facing each other. Your hands are a little bit relaxed. And again, just bringing your attention into your shoulder blades. Really start to reach your arms up towards the ceiling. So as you reach your fingers up towards the ceiling, you'll notice that your shoulder blades move away from the blanket roll. And then keeping your elbows straight, you're just going to sort of lower your arms straight back down. So the hands are still pointing up to the ceiling. You're just beginning to wrap your shoulder blades around that blanket roll. And we'll do that a few times. Reaching for the ceiling, the shoulder blades move apart and away from the roll. Lowering the arms down, not touching the floor. The shoulder blades wrap around that blanket roll. Maybe 2 more times, just finding that movement in your shoulder blades. Another one. Next time the shoulders come down and they squeeze around that roll, just pause for a moment and then let your arms rest on the floor. You can have your palms facing down here for a little bit of support, and just pause for a breath. And then pick up your left foot and bend your left knee so your shin is parallel to the floor, your foot is flexed. It almost looks like you're sitting in a chair on that left side. So you've got 90-degree bend at the ankle and at the knee and at the hip. And just notice how that changes your balance a little bit, picking up one foot and holding. And then place that foot back down on the ground. Pause. Pick up the right foot. And again, that 90-degree angle at your hip, your knee, your ankle. 90-degree-ish, close enough. And just again, noticing the balance. And then place that foot back down on the ground. And then you could do one side at a time again, or this time see if you can pick up both legs. Sort of like you're sitting in a chair, and you'll notice there's a little more balance needed here. Might feel a little bit wobbly. And then place both feet back down on the ground. And just pause for a breath, let the arms relax. So the next variation, you might just repeat that same thing that we just did, lifting one leg at a time, having the hands resting on the floor. Or this time, pick your arms up again, same setup, the palms face each other, the elbows are straight. Press down through one foot, doesn't matter which one, and pick up the opposite leg. So again, you're looking for that sort of 90-ish degree knee. Foot is flexed, you're active. You might notice maybe wobbly, maybe not. Just hold for a little bit longer, challenging that balance a little bit. And then place that foot down on the ground, pause. And each side can be really different, so pick up the other leg and see how that feels. Just holding and breathing. A little bit of a longer hold just to challenge that balance a little bit. And then place that foot back down on the ground. And again, you could do one side at a time, or maybe you challenge yourself by lifting both legs off the ground. And you'll notice that you're probably a little bit wobbly on that blanket roll. Notice what your body does to keep yourself stable. And then place one foot down, place the other foot down, let your arms rest. This time palms facing up. You might stay with your knees bent, or some of you might like to extend your legs out. And just rest here for a breath or two. Kind of notice the effect that has on the body. It was super small and gentle, but still a little bit of effort. And then you can roll to one side. Just slide that roll out from underneath you and lie flat for just a moment. And notice how lying flat feels. Another breath here. And then bend your knees, draw your knees into your chest. You can hold your shins or the backs of your thighs and rock a little bit from side to side. And then pause at the center. Bring your arms out to a T position. Decide if you want palms up or palms down, whatever feels better for you today. You can always bring your feet back down to the floor if you know that that's a better twist for your back, or you can keep your knees tucked into your chest and take your knees over to the right. We're trying to keep the shoulders on the floor so the legs may or may not touch the ground. We're not worrying about that too much. We're not going to hold too long here. And if it feels good for your neck, you can always turn to look over that left shoulder. One more breath here. Bring your head back to center. Bring your legs back to center. Pause. Make any adjustments you need to. Maybe feet are on the floor, maybe knees into the chest. Take your knees over to the left Legs might touch the floor, they might not. We're trying to keep our shoulders connected to the floor, and maybe you turn to look over your right shoulder. Just pausing here for another couple of breaths. And then bring your head back to center, bring your legs back to center. Again, you might tuck your knees in a little tighter and rock a little bit from side to side. And then pause back at the center. And in any way that works for you, make your way up to a seated position, but then we're coming right into a tabletop position. So take a moment to set yourself up in tabletop. You want your hands underneath your shoulders, your knees are underneath your hips, tops of the feet are on the ground. And we'll move through a couple of cat movements. So you may be moving with your breath as you inhale, look up, drop the belly, think of squeezing your shoulder blades together. And as you exhale, start to round your spine, feel your shoulder blades move apart, let your head relax. And do that 2 more times, lifting the tailbone, dropping the belly, squeeze the shoulder blades. Scoop the tailbone under, draw the belly up, spread the shoulder blades. Just 1 more of those. Finding that sort of lovely movement for the spine today. 1 more time, rounding the back. And then coming back to tabletop. Just again, centering yourself. Remember to manage what's going on in your wrists. If your wrists get sore, you could always go on to fists. You could always try doing the exercise from down on your elbows. Whatever you need to do, take a break when you need to. Working on balance a little bit here, shift your weight into your left hand and walk your right fingertips forward and just lightly rest your fingertips on the ground. Tuck your left toes under and slide your left leg back behind you. So toes are resting lightly on the floor, fingertips are resting lightly on the floor. And just pause here and notice how that feels. This is a really good place to stay, or you might choose to lift your leg and lift your arm, reaching them forward. Or arm reaches forward, leg reaches back. They reach away from each other. Holding and breathing. 1 more breath here. And then lower the hand, lower the leg, pause. Shift your weight into your right hand. Walk your left fingertips forward. Fingertips rest on the floor. Tuck your right toes under and slide that right leg back. So toe is on the floor, toes are on the floor, fingertips are on the floor. You pause and notice. Option is to lift that arm and leg, reaching opposite arm and leg away from you. Making sure that you're still breathing. And then lowering the arm, lowering the leg. Walk yourself up to a high kneel and just shake out your hands a little bit. You might make fists, circle a few times, give your wrists a break, change the direction. And we'll go back to that tabletop position. And first option is to just repeat what we just did. You can keep your fingertips and your toes on the floor. You could lift. Or this time we'll change it a little bit. Shifting the weight into the left hand. Start to walk your right fingertips forward. Shift your weight into your left knee and walk your right leg back. So now we're at the same side. So right arm, right leg are extended. And keeping these on the floor is a really good way to practice your balance. You might already notice that you've shifted your weight to one side and you're definitely working on keeping yourself stable. Option would be, and I would encourage you to do this in a way that makes the most sense in your body, but maybe you start just by lifting a leg. Maybe it makes more sense to you to lift your arm first. So try one, try the other, and then maybe you can try both, lifting the right arm and the right leg out. Noticing how much that changes your balance. And then lower that hand, lower the leg, pause. Shift your weight to the other side, so onto the right side. You'll start to send that leg back behind you. You'll start to walk your hand forward. And then think about moving in the way that makes the most sense in your body. Maybe you lift the arm first. Maybe then you lift the leg. Maybe today is a day when you can try both. Left arm, left leg, lift up off the floor, just really working on challenging your balance. Arm comes down, leg comes down. Move through another cat movement. Tailbone scoops under, belly draws up, shoulder blades spread, head relaxes. Tailbone lifts, belly drops, shoulder blades squeeze, and you look up. Come back to tabletop. Walk yourself up to a high kneel and give your wrists a break. Just shake them out a little bit. So one more little balance here. And if you feel like you need a little more cushioning, like I'm on a carpet here, so it's not too bad. But if you feel like you want some more cushioning, you've got your blanket. So just unroll your blanket and place that under your knees. And again, use the side that, or start with the side that makes the most sense to you. We'll do both sides for sure. You just want to shift your weight onto one side. I'm going to shift onto my left side and pick the opposite knee up. So I'm picking my right knee up off the floor, keeping my foot on the floor to start with. And notice how stable you feel here. So you might be really wobbly, and this might be enough. You might feel like today is a day where you want to move a little closer to the wall, so you have the wall to support you. Or it might be a day where you can pick that right foot up off the floor. And you'll probably flail around, let yourself do whatever you need to do to be stable. So arms can go out to the side. Some people place their hands on their hips or together in front of their heart, but try to balance on one knee. Think of pressing down through the top of the foot that's on the floor, pressing down through the shin, helping to stabilize. And then place that knee down and pause. Just rest between sides. When you're ready, shift your weight to your opposite knee. So I'm shifting onto my right and picking up the other knee. So I'm lifting my left knee off the ground. Just start with the foot on the floor. Each side can be really different. So maybe this is enough. Maybe you want the wall for this one. Maybe you can pick up that whole leg and you can just see how your balance is different from side to side. Make sure you're breathing. Try not to hold your breath. Might be super wobbly. Might be a day when you can be super still. That's not my day, but place that knee back down on the ground and pause. Might close your eyes for a moment. Blink your eyes open. Your body stays, or shoulders stay over the hips. Tops of the feet are on the floor. You're just going to lean back until you feel the fronts of your legs turn on. So this doesn't have to be a very big movement. And then pick yourself up. And then lean back one more time. And pick yourself up. From here, you can step one foot forward, step the other foot forward, and just come to standing, Tadasana. Nice and tall, toes point forward, a little bit of space between your feet. You can kind of wiggle around and just land for a moment. If you're not dizzy, you can close your eyes. If you're dizzy at all, keep your eyes open and just find a spot to look at that's not moving. get a sense of where the weight is in the bottoms of your feet. So kind of, you might even shift a little side to side. And then shift a little bit forward and back. And then you want to land kind of somewhere in the middle where you feel like the weight is even through the bottoms of your feet. That big toe mound, baby toe mound, back of the heel. Lifting up, standing tall. And then shifting your weight to your left foot, bring your right toes forward and just touch them to the ground. Bring your left arm forward, take your right arm back, and we're just going to start to move and tap. So swing your arms as that right leg taps back, swing your arms again as it taps forward. And you just start to go back and forth, kind of like you're walking, but you're tapping your toe. So this might be level 1, and again, this could easily be done near a wall, so you have that extra bit of support. Or you just keep tapping the toe back and forth. And if this is going well, you might find that you can pick up that foot and start to swing the leg a little bit more. So the movements might be a little bit quicker, they might be a little bit bigger, and you're just kind of letting yourself swing. Usually the less you think about it, the better. It's a little bit of coordination, a little bit of a brain exercise. You're also standing or challenging that standing leg. It's a little bit of work for that standing leg. Dynamic balance. We often think balance has to be super still and steady, but sometimes we need to move while we balance. And then pause, stand, notice how you feel. Bring your left toes forward, bring your right arm forward, take your left arm back, and start with just the tapping. So you can start slow, you can notice how that feels, and then if it feels okay, you can start to swing and just let that movement happen. It's a really good idea in general to challenge your balance in lots of different ways, and there are so many ways we can practice balance. We want to get good at all of the ways we can balance. So this is just one. Keep going a little bit more, a couple more breaths. And then let that movement stop. Stand. If you're not dizzy, you can close your eyes, but if you're at all dizzy, keep them open. Take another breath here. And then blink your eyes open. You might bring your hands to your hips. Some people like the arms out to the side or hands to heart center. Really do with what you need to with your arms. Shift your weight to one side and pick up the opposite knee. And just hold. Be still for a moment. Notice how that stillness feels. And then taking a small step, you're just going to step that foot down. So you're in a super tiny lunge. And then see if you can shift your weight back and pick that leg back up. And then try that a couple of times. Step forward and step back, picking up the leg. Continue to do this, but change it each time you do it. So maybe you start to take a little bit of a bigger step forward and then step yourself back. Or maybe you step a little bit out to the side and you step yourself back. Maybe you try the other side and step back. And then do maybe 2 more of these with a little bit of exploring. And the next time you step that leg up, again, just pause and notice a little bit of stillness. step that leg down, walk it out a little bit. You can shake your hands out. Maybe you try something different with your arms. Pick up the opposite leg and just pause. Starting with a really small step, just step forward into a tiny lunge and then pick yourself up. And then practice that a couple of times, a few small lunges, picking yourself up. And then maybe you start to make your lunges a little bit bigger. But as much as you can, try to control your movements, especially coming up. You can take that leg out to the side and pick it up. But again, we're just challenging our balance. We're working that standing leg, and we're trying our best not to fall over. Try 2 more of those, any way you want to. Just get sort of interested in the movement. Next time that leg comes up, pause. Try to be still, and then step that leg down. Walk it out a little bit. One more standing balance. Super simple. Just take your right foot in front of your left foot, so heel to toe, so like you're standing on a balance beam. Think of standing tall, chin starts parallel to the floor. And we're just going to look down towards our toes. As you look down towards your toes, like really see your toes. So one of the things we do when we often balance in yoga especially, we find a spot to look at that's not moving. So here we want to change that a little bit. So really see your toes, look at the floor, look at the wall or what's in front of you, look up towards the ceiling, and then look all the way back down towards your toes. And then try that a couple of times, looking up towards the ceiling and looking down towards your toes. And you can stay with that variation, or this time look up towards the ceiling, look over one shoulder, look down to the floor, find your toes, look over the other shoulder, and back up towards the ceiling. And then try that in the opposite direction. Look over the opposite shoulder, bring your gaze down towards your toes, over your other shoulder, and back up to the ceiling. And then gaze forward. Step that out, walk it out a little bit. And we'll try the other side. So taking your left heel in front of your right toes, just pause, find your balance. Notice when you do find a spot to look at that's not moving, it helps to steady you. You soften your gaze and you stand, and maybe that's enough for today. Or maybe you can look down towards your feet. You can follow along the floor, looking up towards the ceiling. And try that a couple of times. Look down towards your toes and look up towards the ceiling. This time maybe you look down towards the toes. You look up towards the ceiling. You look over one shoulder. You look down towards your toes. Look over the other shoulder and back up to the ceiling. And then change that. Go the opposite way. Other shoulder, looking down. Opposite shoulder, looking up. Coming back to center, just pausing for a moment. And then releasing and walking it out. And then from here, we'll come down to seated. And if possible, try to come down to seated without using your hands. So you might cross one foot in front of the other and sit all the way down. Or you might, for some people that bothers their knees, so you might walk down to seated and walk yourself onto your seat. Maybe you just ignore me and come down to seated any way that works for you. So find a comfortable seat. We won't be here too long, but you could have legs crossed. You could straighten one or both legs, whatever you need for today. Lengthen your spine. From here, we'll bring the hand to the top of the shoulder, kind of open that elbow out to the side. Bring your other hand to the floor beside you and just lean into a side bend. Pick yourself back up. Release, change sides, opposite hand to shoulder, other fingertips out to the side, lean over to the other side. Pick yourself back up. Release. Lengthen the spine here. Just a super simple twist, taking that arm across the body, the other hand behind you, looking back. Coming back to center, changing sides. Coming back to center. Roll those shoulders open, tent the fingertips behind you. Same idea, squeeze the shoulder blades. Lift the chest, lift up through the sternum, through the collarbones, looking up slightly, not dropping your head back. Bring your head forward. Bring your hands forward. Decide on your forward fold for today. So maybe just bringing your hands to the floor is enough of a forward fold. You think of pressing your sitting bones back behind you, lengthening your spine. Some of you might walk forward a little bit. Some of you might walk forward a lot. Entirely up to you. Do think of lengthening your spine. And then walk yourself back up. Check which leg you have crossed in front. Stretch your legs out and bounce them out. Change the cross of your legs. Sit up tall. Either repeat that same side bend, or this time reach your right arm up to the ceiling, left arm out to the side. Lean into your side bend. Pick yourself up. Release. Change sides. Pick yourself back up. Release the arms. Easy twist to one side. And then over to the other side. Coming back to center. Roll those shoulders open. Tent the fingertips behind you. Squeeze the shoulder blades. Lift the chest. Look out slightly. Don't drop your head back. Should be able to breathe easily. Bring your head forward. Bring your hands forward. Decide on your forward fold. So it could be just bringing the hands to the floor. Could be bringing the forehead to the floor. It really doesn't matter. Do think of continuing to press back through your tailbone, through your sitting bones. Lengthen the spine. And pick yourself back up. Stretch your legs out and bounce them out. Give them a little shake. We will come onto our back for Shavasana for a little bit of relaxation. And if you liked that feeling of the blanket roll, come back to lying on your blanket roll. So again, just making sure that you're supported from the tailbone all the way to the top of the head, so your head isn't falling back off of that roll. And then you wiggle around and get comfortable. You can place your arms out to the side with the palms up. You can keep your knees bent, or some of you may like to straighten your legs out, taking your feet a little bit wider. Take a nice deep inhalation and a long letting go exhalation. Just allowing your body to settle onto that roll, onto your mat, however you've decided to rest. Let go of the effort of your practice. Feel that really gentle opening through the front of the body, especially if you're lying on that roll. Feel your heart beating. Feel your breath coming and going. And just take these next few moments to rest. Taking time for peace. And time for you to simply be. If you are happy here and want to stay longer, please do. Just ignore me. Otherwise, you might draw your awareness back and roll a little bit to one side and kind of slide that roll out from underneath you and lie flat for a moment. Just noticing how lying flat feels. You might stay here, or you might take a moment to roll to one side and pause there. And then in a way that works for you, make your way up to a seated position. It's coming to a comfortable seat. Lifting the spine up tall. Bringing your hands to heart center. And pausing for a moment of gratitude. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. And thank you for sharing your practice with me. Namaste.